Okay, today we will talk about more about the methodology, not just the some clinical decision support research. And today is good. I mean, today there is a paper talking about the research in ER department. So yeah, each class we have some good example for all of you. Oh, sorry, I didn't change the date. Base 11. Okay, we will talk about some statistical method and some machine learning technique. We discussed a little bit before, but today we will go through the detail and know each technique, their pros and cons, and you will know in the future what kind of statistical method is suited for you. Okay. So yeah, basically the clinical decision support system, there is one most important thing is we need to get the knowledge from. We need to get the knowledge from variety of source, okay? Because think about the clinical decision support. The computer, you need to educate the computer. Then the computer can learn. Then can how they can help you to make the decision. So the most difficult thing for the clinical decision support is how you selecting the source and how to integrate this knowledge. Okay, I think that's the key main part, because I think for all of you, first you will select one domain area for your research, and the second thing is how you retrieve the knowledge and to build the clinical decision support system. And but I think but after I reading this chapter, I have an impression that actually we already, because this book is written in 2007 or 2004, and at that time their conclusion is it's hard to extract the knowledge from the clinical data. So at this chapter, they conclude that currently most clinical decision support system is still manually designed by expert, like the Ming-Chin. In back to the 1970s, the Ming-Chin is the clinical decision support system for using the antibiotic. That is a rule-based system and manually created by expert, because later we will discuss that is because for clinical practice, for us, the patient safety is the most important thing. So only the knowledge generated by expert are trusted. So because you cannot just learn something, say, I use the data mining technique, then I get some knowledge. Or for example, the Jack, his group say the PZD having the risk factor for the brain tumor, then we shouldn't use it. So yeah, but it's just the hypothesis. But for clinical, for traditional evidence-based medicine, that evidence is pretty weak. So again the same for like in the future, Guoxuan, he want to develop a system and implement in the ER department. First, he need to prove his knowledge is true or the performance is good. Otherwise, he might do some harmful thing to the patient. So there are some fundamental issue in clinical practice. Is the patient safety is still the most important concern. But in this chapter, we will introduce a couple of things that already been widely accepted by clinical journal. So we would, such as the logistic regression. It's a kind of common use methodology in clinical journal. So today we will cover that. But I just want to let you know some fundamental before you, because previously we have discussed a lot of system. Then right now I'm going to introduce you how to create a system, but you need to know some limitation about the methodology. So we already said that in the past, most clinical decision support system is the medical expert. They created the rule. So such as the Ming-Chin is a rule-based decision tree system. Just the expert. Actually, in our clinical practice, we have some flow chart. So the Ming-Chin is kind of flow chart or decision tree. So you got some condition, then you can make decision. Later, we will cover the decision tree. We will discuss. So the important thing is the Ming-Chin is a physician-based assessment. So it utilize the clinical finding, and they also consider the prevalence of disease, and also some benchmark for the classification of disease. So it basically, it just, I would say, it simulated what experts thinking in their brain. Okay, actually the Ming-Chin. Later we will discuss the patient network. We will discuss the neural network and also logistic regression. There's one thing very important is whether those rules can be understood by human. That is some very critical thinking, because for traditional clinical aspect, that something you learn from the data, for example, then you generate some formula. Those formulas should be explainable. So later we will say that compared to logistic regression, the neural network is not widely used in clinical setting because they have some hidden layer. Then it cannot be explained by clinical doctor. So for that kind of, this kind of, I would say it's kind of some limitation of the methodology. Okay, so but for the currently we only accept those things that expert can understand. But I say that is back to the 2007. But right now, I believe in the big data era, I think those things have something changed, because you can think currently we have a lot of things. We can generate a lot of hypotheses from PubMed or from the NHIRDB. Basically, I think the paradigm is a little bit different. Is we use the case control study to prove the clinical knowledge, but right now we allow, or we also appreciated that the data driven or hypothesis driven to get the knowledge to improve the clinical healthcare. Like previous, I already told you the paper published in Science, the Arthur Bill, his group. First, he searched the knowledge from PubMed. Then he finds something is related, can be the disease or risk factor. Then he used the EMR to prove it. So in this, if you read this chapter, they say that only knowledge derived from expert can be reliable and only can be used for clinical decision support. But I will argue that in this big data area, we may be in the era for some paradigm shift that we might using the data mining or any kind of technique to search the hypothesis. Then if we have chance, then we use the traditional clinical approach to prove it. Okay. So yeah, we will face some knowledge representation. We will use the Bayesian network. Here is I want to show you is the graphic structure, because in clinical domain we prefer using the graphic structure to represent the medical knowledge. So Bayesian network is kind of graphic structure to represent knowledge. And actually, my master's thesis is I applied the Bayesian network. But in this chapter, we won't cover the Bayesian network. But just let you know, we usually use the graphic structure to represent the medical knowledge. So here is some give you the idea is here is the traditional visualization of. In this, I'm not sure this is a decision tree or, yeah, I think this one is decision tree. Later we will cover. So basically is you have some, here is the total population. Then you will divide the total population recursively by one by the condition. So, so the idea is you have the whole population here. Then we have the 4 different categories. So here is some idea is we can buy, actually this look more like a Bayesian network. But the idea is you have the total population here. You want to classify them into a different category. But in clinical setting, we call this diagnosis. Okay, you got the patient here, and you have the predefined label for the disease A, disease B, disease C, disease D. So the idea is you have a learning process that you having the certain patient looks like this. Then in the future, there's a patient unknown here. Then you can using the patient network to make diagnosis. And I think this side they want to show you that back to the 1991, they already proved that the Bayesian network have the same capability of the diagnosis quality of the expert. It's just like the expert, they compare, because the idea is the expert use the Bayesian network to create the knowledge, then try to make diagnosis for the patient. Then they compare the performance between the expert and also the Bayesian network, and they already proved that the Bayesian network have the capability to reach the same performance. Okay, so yeah, that's some fundamental. But the good thing is, currently nobody, if you conduct the Bayesian network, nobody will challenge you that is the Bayesian network is reliable or not. Okay, so but that is another thing is when you try to apply some methodology, then be careful about whether you already prove that your methodology is workable. It's just like when I doing my PhD research that I create my own tool, but my boss say that you need to prove your tool is performs well, then you can use it. So yeah. So here is some limitation about we use the graphic model to represent the clinical decision support system. Usually we will face the problem is the model is just too complicated. Later we will explain a little bit. And here is two things. We need to say that those things should be explicit represented and can be understood by the human. Okay. Yeah. Then we just say that the traditional is the medical decision support system. The knowledge is created by expert and mostly is a rule-based system. But right now we having a new era because we have some new thing is we have lots of data. Then those data is more standardized. So we got the opportunity to apply some machine learning or statistical method to generate the CDS system. Yeah. So this is the conclusion. I say that the thing you created or you built for the clinical decision support should be understood by clinician and should be agreed with by clinician. Otherwise, I mean, the most concern is the patient safety because you cannot just generate or learn something on your own. But for the clinician is those things should be understood and also can be agreed by the clinician. So that's the paper published in Science. The first thing is they create a new methodology. But the second thing is they use the traditional clinical research approach to prove it, the hypothesis is correct. So yeah, so you when you write in your when you are doing your project, you need to be careful about the thing is if you are going to implement the system, then those knowledge should be understood or be agreed with. Then yeah, I said that already because in the past we rely on expert to create a system, but right now we already have the EHR, so everything is in computer. So the data quality and the data quantity is big enough. So we got a chance to generate some hypothesis. So we can so right now why we talk about the big data again. So because yeah we have lots of data. So we can use the statistical and the machine learning approach to generate the idea. Okay. So yeah.
So how if we create something, how to get the agreement to clinician? Is they have something like consortium or something like organization, and we need to prove to them, and they get agreement from them?
I guess there are two ways. The first thing is if the knowledge generated by CDS can be understood, like the Bayesian network or something like some flow chart. That is similar to human's brain. Then that thing can be just if you can, for example, if you use the Bayesian network or use the visualization, for example, classification tree, then that can be understood by clinician, then that will be fine. But the second thing is if you create some tool cannot be understood by human. For example, I think the methodology they collect from the knowledge of the hypothesis from PubMed is quite complicated, but he created a systematic method, but they use the traditional clinical research approach to prove it. Their systematic approach are reliable, then that will be fine. So the thing, I guess there are two levels. If that thing is very explicit, can be understood by human, then that part is easy. Just the output can be read by human. But the second thing is the output cannot be read by human. Then you need to use a statistical method to test it, to prove it. So say that the methodology is significant. Okay.
So where is the major part of these errors from the big data? If we find a relationship or hypothesis from the big data, and they describe a hypothesis for us, and where is the relationship is real or just the error from processing this calculation?
This will
such as if BED and brain tumor, is it possible that the brain tumor is associated to the poor sleeping quality, and BED is also associated to this? Is that we didn't find the other detail or somewhat?
Later, actually, we will cover this issue. Yeah, that's a good. I think that's a good thought that you follow the whole thinking process. Yes, later we will cover that because we say this is data driven or hypothesis driven, but we use some methodology. But actually, what we found, I think you are asking, this question is what we can learn from big data. Yeah, but actually this chapter they provide a hint. So later I will show you. Yeah, later we will discuss it. Yeah, so yeah, in the past is rule based, but today we will cover a more sophisticated method. But we won't cover too much like the support vector machine or neural net. We will cover the logistic regression and the decision tree and the neural network. We will cover this. Okay, so yeah, we will introduce. So yeah, I think previously I gave you a talk about what is supervised or unsupervised learning. I think we start the supervised learning. I think this is the traditional one. Here they got a new definition for supervised learning model. You can read this definition is the subject is to determine how to best classify object with predefined label representing the class of interest. So for example, we can classify patient into a malignant or a benign case. So here, the most important thing is actually you already having some knowledge. You already have the knowledge about what is called so-called malignant and what is called benign. So you already know something. Then you just you already have the idea. So you already define the malignant and benign. So the supervised learning model is that are saying that you already having some knowledge. Then in here is you know how to define the different objects. So you use the supervised learning method to try to learn how to use the statistical method to classify the model. So compared to the supervised learning model, is the unsupervised. So when you can apply the unsupervised learning model, so basically is in which condition you will use the unsupervised learning model is when you know little thing about it. So I previously used the different flower in the garden. So if you already know you want to classify the flower into a different color, you already have the knowledge. But if you don't, you want to learn different thing, then
you don't know the
yeah.
variable to classify.
Yeah. So one thing is, okay, let's just see how to group them by some characteristic. So but at that time for this I would say it's called clustering. Okay, clustering. The idea is I don't know how to classify them, but I will try to use the different attribute to see whether they are something similar. I think in Guoxian's your case is for if you are doing the unknown fever patient, that if you already know the unknown fever can be classified into five categories. For example, like the brain abscess, and the second thing is the GI infection, or third thing is blah 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 something. If you already know the unknown fever can be classified into five categories, then you can use the supervised method, because in your data set, you got a registry. You know the patient with the first initial diagnosis is unknown fever. Then you will also know the final diagnosis. Then you will have the predefined label for it. Then according those laboratory tests or some initial examination, then you can having the ability to do the classification. But the problem is another situation. This is if you don't know how to classify them. For example, right now you don't know there are how many categories in your unknown fever patient. Then what kind of method you can apply? The first thing is you can use the clustering. Unsupervised, because you don't have the predefined label, or you don't have the existing knowledge that you don't have some pre-existing knowledge to do it. Okay, so basically the idea is I would suggest that you will collect all the data, then collect all the possible variable of patient, then try to apply the clustering method to see, whether, for example, I can, basically that is some thinking process by clinician. I think clustering is kind of humans cognitive science, because if you practice more, then you will see, there are some group of people that, some pattern or some group of patient that look similar. So that's some, if you, the expert or some experienced doctor, they will having that. Then that's called clustering. Then we just say, we mentioned the BZD and the tumor. That part we call association. Yeah, so for the unsupervised learning method, the common one we use is the clustering. And the second thing is the association rule. So I will guess the big data era, currently most people, I think you can try to generate the association rule. If you can find something they are associated, then you can use the electronic health record to prove it. Then that is significant enough.
So the result from the unsupervised learning model will show in only one dimension or different dimension results. The
Can
cluster
you
will only one dimension. Or you can show me that two kinds of error.
you are talking about the group?
The result. I don't know how to describe that. So is it only a simple one that it will cluster in this age or somewhat, or it can show me a very complicated relationship or something?
It's depend on the technique that you use. Something like for clustering or association, we can have some technique to.
I think the clustering is very straightforward. Is they use the variable of each instance to calculate the distance.
So I should set these variables first.
Yes.
Set the variable first.
Yeah, of
For
course.
clustering?
Yeah, I mean, for each data, how you represent it is you create the you use the for example the patient one, then you need to decide the column, then you need to collect the data first. So that is kind of data representation. You will need it. Later we will cover it a little bit. Yeah, but yes, you need to have the variable for each instant. You need to decide it at the beginning. Then I will then you can use the different set of variable to calculate the distance for it. But the output is straightforward, just different group. Just you have those whole data. Then by different benchmark, you can clustering. I remember you can, for example, you can say that I want to cluster those data into 3 groups. Then they will try to they will just they also can have you for if I say that if you have a chunk of data, the true answer is they got a 10 different group. Okay. Then if you say, because I want to classify those data into three cluster, then actually they still can do it, but they have I think they have a benchmark or formula to calculate whether the 3 is a good number or not, because they use the Euclidean distance. You can imagine if here we got a 10 group of patient, a 10 group of the group, then actually the people, or the instance within each group, they should look similar, right? Then if you so they have the formula to calculate it. Also they will know the number of the cluster is 3 is better, or 5 is better, or 10 is better. Okay, I think if you go to read the wake up, the textbook I sent you, they have the idea explain a little bit more detail about clustering. So, but the idea is they will calculate the distance by any of the 2. Then they will decide which 2 dot they are more closely. Okay, but the final result is straightforward. They just classify them into different groups. Okay, but you asking that whether the dimension or something like that, I'm guessing you are asking about whether you can use a lot of different variables to classify them. But I think that's at the beginning. So you will have I think later we will have example from the ED department, so you can get more idea about it. Yeah, so here is actually the clustering is the method developed from the microarray data. So you have the data. I think each column is one row. So they will calculate the distance by any of these. So the first they will grouping these two things similar together, and I think this one called hierarchical clustering. So any two, their algorithm is they will searching the first two things they are similar, they will put together. Then the second thing is so these two elements will become the new group. So this group and you can see they are more similar to this group. So basically you have this chunk of instance, but by hierarchical clustering, then you can group in the patient into a different set. Okay, so this one is we call approach called hierarchical clustering. So yeah. Yeah, previously we always say that if you already know the condition, or you already have the predefined condition, that the supervised learning can help you to do that. Or we can rephrase it that is, I already know what I'm doing, what I'm going to do. I just want to ask computer to help me to do that. So at that time, you can use supervised learning to do it.
So it will tell us the result that how many classification we should set will be better. If we have input the result that we group them into 3 groups, and the result will tell us that actually it have 5 groups actually, and it will be the best set.
No, you are saying that learning from clustering, then
maybe I have example. I have a bunch of flowers, and I want to know, because it looks similar, but I don't know what the variable of the flowers, and I just say I want to divide into 3 groups. So is it classifying or clustering?
it's clustering.
Clustering. If I have bunch of flowers,
and
I want to divide it into
the
color, the petals, and maybe
the key point is you say you want to divide them into 3 groups.
But I don't know.
But if you know how to divide them by existing knowledge, at that time, in that case, I would say that is a supervised learning. You already know some knowledge how to divide them. The key point is you already have some existing knowledge to divide them.
So if I have a bunch of flowers and I want to divide into colors red, white, and blue,
then you already say I use the color as a feature to divide them. Okay.
It's classification.
It's a classification.
So the result will differ if we have the different predefined labels, right?
Yes.
So I think clustering it's useful if we find something like new disease or any health phenomenon, and we don't know exactly what it is and what the pattern. Clustering can help us to find any pattern.
But mainly is to provide a more microscopic result. I mean, I can give you the good example is in 2000 we have the ability to do the genetic test for the leukemia patient. So at that time, the scientific era, they are the most important thing is they need to prove the genetic data can help in clinical diagnosis. So there is a famous paper that their target is the B cell lymphoma. The type of B cell lymphoma is kind of leukemia disease. Then originally there's a group called type B of B cell lymphoma, but in the clinical course, they found that there are two groups of patients. It's quite different clinical response to chemotherapy. One group is very good response to chemotherapy and have better mortality, better survival, and another is less. So, but at that time they only have the microscope or some blood tests for the lymphoma. So at that time, their argument is say that they thought in the type B lymphoma, actually they also have some disease subgroup. They are response to one chemotherapy agent differently. So at that time, they try to collect the genetic information from the patient. Then, so I think I can find the paper. So basically, they collect the genetic data from the patient. Then they do the clustering by their genetic expression. They found out the gene expression they can be correlated to the response to the chemotherapy. So in that paper, they proved that from the gene profile can help us to divide the patient into a subgroup. Okay, but right now it's kind of simple idea. But back to that time, they try to, yeah.
To prove.
So this is the result from the supervised.
Unsupervised.
Unsupervised. So the cluster hierarchical array is the subtype of the unsupervised model.
Cluster, yeah. Association is also kind of unsupervised. You don't know, you don't have any existing knowledge. You just try to apply some distant calculation, try to use the different way to find a similarity. You don't have any predefined or the knowledge. I think later I will send out the paper. Yeah. Let me check cluster. Yeah, I think you can see by clustering their microarray data. So each row is a patient. So if you can cluster their genetic profile into two groups like this, and these two groups is associated with the different response for the chemotherapy, then you can find a very great association that, oh, if you can see this group having better response to chemotherapy and this group has less response to chemotherapy, you can easily use the statistical method to calculate the case control, whether this, I think the argument, the hypothesis is we use this gene profile to classify as the variable, then whether this gene profile can categorize the patient into two groups, then we can use the traditional statistical method to say that, oh, this gene profile can categorize patient into the two group of for the treatment response. Okay. So did you got the idea? Yeah, because at the beginning we don't know how to which gene is related to
chemotherapy.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't use any pre-existing knowledge. So, but basically I use the clustering. I just look at them, then compare, I try to group the similar thing together. Okay. Yeah, so here is the basic example of the clustering. Okay. So this involves two processes. The first thing is you use the different clustering methodology, try to group them. Then the second thing is you try to explain whether in this group they share some similar condition. So in this case here is the variable. So in your case is you collect all the data from your unknown fever patient. Then you try to cluster it. For example, you use the clustering algorithm, then it classifies into 5 groups. What you do next is try to use your expert knowledge to look at these 5 groups. Then whether you can provide an explanation of it. Yeah, okay? So if you can explain it or that it's reasonable, then you can prove. I think the point is the first you use clustering to classify to group them into 5 groups. Then if this 5 group can be agreed by the clinician, think of that are reasonable, then you already derive the knowledge. Then the next step is, okay, based on the clustering, then I have the file label. So the next stage is you can use this knowledge to build your classification system. I already proved that those unknown fever patients can be classified to 5 groups. So the next thing is, if there is a new thing coming here, then I will assign a label for it. So at that stage we call classification.
So if I want to design a scoring system, I can.
Yes. Yeah, but yeah. It's a little bit true or not. The scoring system, it already involves 2 processes. The scoring system, that means you already have the existing knowledge how to score it.
I have to prove the classification first.
No, but yeah, because yeah, you don't know how to classify them. You only have patient with the diagnosis is unknown fever. Yeah, so you don't know any way to try to
It's a cluster, not a design.
Yeah. You only do the cluster first, then you can do the labeling.
It needs to become number, or it also can generate the something like
For the group.
For the data, it has.
You mean the variable or the cluster? The variable should be numeric, but we already introduced how you transform the category data into numeric. So just use the binary approach. You can easily transform the nominal. We say nominal or category data into the You can just use the binary approach. So in this chapter they say unsupervised learning model have not been applied into clinical decision support system. I think I give the question mark here. Still true, because I think it's still true. But right now we apply a lot of unsupervised learning method. We try to search the hypothesis. Then we try to use the traditional like supervised learning method to prove it. So I think for you right now the best chance is you can try to learn apply the different unsupervised learning method. I think that's is a good quote for the big data era, is because we don't know if you already know some knowledge, then you just use big data to prove it or not. But if you want to search something unknown, that unsupervised learning method, that will be help. So currently a lot of research is search whether two disease coexistence in one patient, whether they have some risk factor. For example, currently we care about whether some long-term use of drug can affect some condition, like the statin. If you use the statin, which a drug can lower the cholesterol level, can reduce the mortality rate. So we have a bunch of researchers doing this. Okay, so here is some conclusion that I made different from these authors. I say that right now the unsupervised learning is become more important in the big data era. Okay, so maybe in this chapter we didn't cover a lot of unsupervised learning methods. So maybe I will prepare a small session for the unsupervised learning method. So here we will give an example that if you don't know how to, for clinical, you don't know which range is the normal value to make a diagnosis, we can use this approach. But the problem is a lot of time you will facing the missing and noisy data. So if we go through the detail of data mining, we need to deal with the missing data and the noisy data. There are some approaches for the missing data. One approach is just if you have enough sample size, then just ignore the data having the missing result. But first, you need to prove the missing data is randomly, not associated to some condition. So I think both of you have the statistical background, so you know. But that's a big chapter. When I took the class from Professor Zhang Yiren.
Yes.
He I think he has a session for how to treat the missing data, or just assign the value for the randomly. According to there are some, but you don't need to deal with this. I mean, all the data mining program handle this. Okay, yeah. You just, if you just when you using the data mining in your paper, you just mention you how to treat the missing data. Okay. Okay, so maybe we took some small break for 10 minutes. Yeah.